both of them have committed their whole careers to making Tampa Bay a better place for the arts and the artists, which is equally important.
Thank you, John. Yeah, so I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, introduce me, and then Michele introduce herself, and then we'll kind of dive into what we're doing with the Arts Alliance. So I wear a lot of hats right now. I'm president of the Gobiath Foundation. I am chair of the steering committee for the Arts-Based Tampa Initiative, which is working to bring affordable live-work housing to Tampa for artists. I'm recently the chair of Tampa Arts Alliance. I'm also the CFO of PREPA. So I've been in Tampa now for 25 years. The Gobiath Foundation was founded in 2007 by my brother shortly before he passed away in 2008. We looked at what he gave to his individual to decide what the focus of the foundation would be, because his only guidance was to make the world a better place. So we looked at what he gave to his individual, and it was mostly in the arts and in human rights, civil liberties, and social justice issues. And so that's the focus of our foundation. For the last 13 years, we've been grant making here in Tampa in the arts, which is where we focus our arts giving. There's the Tampa Bay area, I should say. We focus on Hillsborough and Pinellas. We've probably given, I did not look at the numbers recently. I know a few years ago it was well over $1 million in Tampa just in the arts. Our focus tends to be at the grassroots level, although we do support exhibitions like Skyway at the Tampa Museum of Art. And so that's kind of what I've been doing a lot of the last 13 years. That led to my involvement here with Tampa Arts Alliance, but I will let Michele introduce herself.
Good morning, I am Michele Smith. I'm Interim Executive Director of the Tampa Arts Alliance. I'm so excited to be here with you all and to see so many familiar faces and to be a part of this group that is so passionately dedicated to our arts and culture community. So a little bit of history. I got into the arts here in '98. I know I'm totally dating myself. I started the first web sign in Tampa, wired in Tampa Bay at the dawn of the internet age. And it was so much fun to cover the local scene. And then a few years later, I started a database called Artist Network in Tampa Bay. And then a few years after that, I just felt kind of burnt out and didn't feel like there was a lot of cohesiveness and really wanted to explore my horizons. And so I just directed my attention to international stuff and what was happening nationally. And being based in Tampa for 20 some odd years, it's really important to support what we've got going on here. And I'm so thrilled to be a part of that. For the last 4 years, I ran the Arts and Culture Committee for Tampa's downtown and got to know some of the major and smaller anchor institutions of our arts and culture in downtown. And throughout Tampa entirely, there is such a beautiful saturation of talent and of passion. And that's where our focus is, and that's our intention with this organization.
So the Tampa Arts Alliance came out of, basically started with a conversation between me and Bill Carlson. Bill and I were introduced to each other at the Tampa Museum of Art at an event there, and we connected over our kind of bigger vision for the arts here in Tampa. When the Gobiath Foundation put together the first candidate forum on the arts for the mayor's race, Cafe Con Tampa agreed to help sponsor that and get the word out so that we could have. We had a huge attendance. I don't know how many of you were there, but there were probably I think about 600 people registered to come, and we held it in Blake High School's auditorium. The candidates at the time were obviously pretty impressed by the turnout about the arts, considering they'd been going to neighborhood associations and they had large turnouts. I went to one of the earlier forums, which had like 5 or 6 different neighborhoods in South Tampa, and the arts forum blew that away as far as the attendance. And I think that was a statement to how important the arts are for people here in Tampa. So we followed that up. Bill and I worked with Mayor Castor to hold the mayor's forum on the arts after her election. And that kind of led to these conversations with other people who had similar visions and interest in the arts. The first real conversation was the last in-person meeting I attended before the pandemic. So that kind of put a hold on things. We restarted those conversations last year during the pandemic over Zoom, and then that ended up actually in the culmination of forming the Alliance earlier this year. I just want to touch on some of the initial goals that we have. Oh, and I want to recognize Jennifer Mullins, one of our board members over there. Our board has actually officially only existed now for about a month, so just to put some timelines and expectations on what's going on here. Our initial goal is to hold a series of town hall meetings around the city to talk to the artists and the arts organizations and understand where the Arts Alliance can fit in with the goals and what everyone needs. Our goal is not to come in and start telling people what's going to happen and what is going to be, what they need. They need to share that with us. But as Michele touched on, there's a huge breadth of talent and organizations, and one of the problems that I've always seen in Tampa, or challenges I should say, not a problem, is the lack of cohesion. And I really hope that the Arts Alliance can become a unifying voice, which is that's the topic I think of today, was about unifying the arts, behind all these different groups and these different areas in Tampa that are working towards the similar goals, but not necessarily in the same ways, and not necessarily realizing what the others are doing.
Yeah. And to circle back before I go forward on the concept of town halls and the work that Tucker Hall and Gobiath Foundation has done, that really drew me in. A couple of years ago, I had the opportunity to go to an international convention and met some of the major players in the arts and cultural world nationally, and I was so thrilled. I came back home and began to work with the downtown a little bit more, and we have so much talent and so many passionate organizations already existing. Many of them are represented here today, and we were able to really build momentum. And one of the things that supported that was an event that was held and hosted by Michael Tomar over at TMA, which was an artist forum. And it was a packed house full of our local artists. And the feeling that I had when I went was like, oh my goodness, this, it really matters. People really care about what's happening here. And the conversation, the synergy of the room was just really, really exciting. I remember I came up, I introduced myself afterwards, and I put a little thought in my head. I was like, I'm gonna work with them more. And so here we are 2 years later. How wonderful is that? Some other initiatives that we have going forward is really collaborating with our existing organizations here. When we talk about unifying, we are talking about really shining a light on what we have and nurturing it and honoring it, not coming in and speaking over. We're just all in this together. So some of the collaborations that have started already is with Hillsborough County, with Island Stone. I'm really excited to support her vision of cultural assets mapping, and we can talk about that during Q&A. And then also with Hillsborough County, with the Arts Council. Eileen Lake is here today, so we're working with them on an economic impact study, which is really exciting. And then we have a couple other initiatives that we are working with, other organizations, as well as our own initiatives as well that we're getting into. But again, we're in our first month, so fixing ourselves.
Yeah, I think, like I said, I think that the long-term vision of this is to become that voice and representation of the entire arts community. It doesn't mean just the nonprofits, it doesn't mean just the for-profits, that doesn't mean just the artists or the museums, the entire arts ecosystem that exists here in Tampa. And I'm just amazed that I've been here for 25 years, and in the last week I've learned about 2 new galleries that are within a mile or 2 of my house that I didn't know that were there. And that's just kind of an example of, and multiple organizations that since we've announced the Arts Alliance have come forward that I didn't know existed. And this is just one of those challenges, is to raise the visibility of the arts in Tampa. We have a long history of trying to be somewhere else in Tampa, and we need to be starting to highlight what we have here and raise up the great work that's coming out of our local art and the resources that we have locally, as well as like bringing in from the outside. I think that was kind of an overview, and a lot more will probably come out in Q&A, so I think we'll move ahead to that. Oh, yeah, hold on, one more thing.
Just especially for the televised viewers at home, be sure to go to our website, tampaartsalliance.org, and sign up for our communications list. You can self-select what kind of communications or what kind of ways you want to be involved, everybody is welcome. So if you want to donate, you're welcome to do that. If you want to volunteer at one of our events, if you want to be more on a grassroots level, an artist level, like, go ahead and send us your information. We'll be in touch later on this month, I believe, with what we have going on.